We come to the last type of object and classes, application logic. Actually, when we are designing or analyzing any system, we are not only dealing with data. There is another activity it should be done by the system. So these activities should also represent in the system. The software object that contain the details of the application is needed in such application. So there is some activities, some process in the application. It's not the data need also to be represented in the system. So these applications or these objects, it's contain the details of this process or these activities. So we need to represent these activities in software object. We need to hide these activities in separate object. So we separate these activities in object. We call it as application logic objects. We have here three types of application logic objects. The first one is business logic object, and algorithm object, and surface object. And we see there here all the three is not data, is not entity, should be represented in entity classes. But here uh, it's as the first one is the logic, is the, for example, bin validation in ATM machine. So such objects should be, or such activities, the validation of bin should be encapsulated in software objects. We call it business logic. So let's see now these three objects. So what the difference between these three objects? Actually, for the business logic object, when we designing or analyzing a system for information system, so we use business logic object. So as I mentioned, in ATM uh, machine or ATM bank, we have some activities. Some activities like after the users insert the card, we should to validate the PIN, and the others we want also transfer the money. So this is activity. So this is process. Should also represent as software object. So this it's the first one we are dealing with information system. So we should to use a business logic. The other types, which is algorithm object, we use it actually in for the engineering in the real times. Where the third one is the surface, is another type of another type of the object, but here in this object we basically only response for the user, is only response for the user, is activity that responds to the user, is not receive anything from the user or from another object. So as we said, the business logic actually is use the first object of application logic is the business logic. Also is used for hiding the some activities. We hide some activities and it should be separate from the entity. So we to separate it from the entity, we use the business logic object. One point here is that you have the freedom to choose between create a separate business logic object, or maybe you just in your class you just create operation. because when we have the class, we have the name, we have the variables, also we have some operation. So we can just create an operation, or we can create a business logic software. So here an example of a business logic object. Here we have, as I mentioned, in ATM or in the bank system, there is many activities which we not only saving the data. There is some activities like withdrawal or uh, validate the bin or transfer the money. So all of this is business logic. In this activity or in this object, the user or the bank coordinator sent sent our first request to withdrawal, and then so here there is some rules should be done, or this is the activity that we talk about. See here, these a business logic have many activities, so we separate. That's why we say we want to separate the data from the another activities or role should be checking in this object. For example, here after the bank request for withdrawals, so this object have many roles to do. The first one is, for example, to check the daily limited of the user. So from the user account, from the entity, this is request, or we can say is check the daily limited of the card, and then after that you can update the daily totals after the withdrawals. So in this withdrawal, we hiding many roles from the other system. So we are just dealing with the withdrawals transaction management. And while this is the rules that it should be done by the withdrawal transaction management. The second application logic object, it's algorithm object. So this object actually is used for encapsulate the algorithm that use in problem domain. As I mentioned, this type of the object is more relevant to engineering and scientific. So when you are writing a methods or algorithm for sorting, for example, anything, or for searching, or so such algorithm can be considered as algorithm object. So the algorithm object is actually is used to hide or encapsulate the algorithm that used in the problem domain. So here, if you are uh, developing or programming uh, algorithm for sorting or for searching or for manipulate, for example, the arms, or so such algorithms, its software object can be considered as software object in your system. So if we see another example of algorithms, it's Croza Croza object. Croza object is algorithm object that use for control and we can say is used for calculate and adjust the speed up of the train. So this object here first, okay, we have here and we the class of the algorithm object of the class of the algorithms, and then we define an object of this class, and this class is requested. Okay, for example, it's first is requested by anyone to maintain the speed. For example, it's here there is request from this object to maintain the speed of the train. So this object read the current speed of the train, and then return this value, and then here we calculate the appropriate speed, and then send this value to the motor. So here this algorithm is used to control another object. So as we see here, we separate the algorithm from the data. We have here some another object, the entities, we have state dependence, so we have output. So we separate our algorithm in algorithm object. The last methods, or the last application logic class is the service. Okay, from the name is used just for providing a service for the customer. So here, uh, okay, in our example, we have this service catalog service. This is the class, and we define, or we create an object from this service, from this class, and we see here it's just response. The service is just response to view the catalog from other to the customer. So the customer request and request to view the catalog, and then this service just maybe is find the catalog, or find the catalog that's requested by the customer, and then view or send back to the customer. As we see here, in this surface there is maybe some algorithm is have been done, or methods have been done to generate this surface. So the catalog here is provide the support for few of the different different items. So in this surface, maybe there is some searching or any application logic been done here, and then send back to the user.